Hello, and welcome to At Your End Step. My name is Morgan, and I'm here with Mike.
Hello.
And we have it's a new year. It's a new episode of At Your End Step, and I hope everyone's holidays have been, if you had holidays over this expanse, that they were good. I hope at the very least that the new year brings you new magical experiences that are going to be good or bad. We have a new set on the verge of sort of coming out.
You get new magical cards.
New magical cards.
That. I got a new cold. Does that help?
Yeah. No, it doesn't help really anyone, actually.
Oh, neat.
Sorry. I don't know what to tell you. I think I'm sick? Question mark? It's like, have you ever felt sick? Kinda? But not, it's not that.
That's how I felt this weekend.
It's the pre-sickness, right? Where you're just something's off.
You're in the process of getting down.
With the sickness. This is obviously what the lead singer of Disturbed felt before he wrote that song.
100%. He was like, "Ooh, what's coming over me? I got to write this down."
I don't think that's what that song's actually about, is it? No,
it's definitely about his relationship.
I know
with his mother.
what the song's about. There's that whole part they cut out of the radio version.
We could do that. We could add that to the topics. We could parse that whole section.
I really don't want to.
Okay. If you've never heard that song not on the radio, it's worthwhile at least once to go listen to that and just be like, "Oh,
yeah,
well, okay." So
it's a journey.
No, it's Disturbed.
I hate you. Yeah. Anyway, so we have a few community topics, obviously, to discuss, and some competitive stuff a little bit. We're actually, going to talk about a few different topics there in competitive, and kind of bring back an old segment.
I've revamped an old segment by shamelessly stealing from another podcast.
You know what? That's the best form of flattery, right?
Oh, it is. And it's not a magic podcast, so,
There you go. But before we start off with everything, I do want to give a quick shout out to all of our patrons over at our Patreon. Our Patreon is patreon.com/atyourendstep. We do appreciate you folks for supporting us every episode, and we really couldn't do it without you. So, and I know that we kind of had a little a business meeting, if you want to call it that, beforehand. So we have a kind of a new idea that we're going to float out to some of the tiers, and basically we want to start
tiers. So
we want to start getting questions from our patrons. So I'll let you know once that has gone live, but that's going to be something that's going to be coming here in the new year. So starting off the show, let's talk about Theros Beyond Death. So this is obviously going to be the set that's coming out in January, so this month. And we have the mechanics for the set, which are pretty interesting. We have, before we jump into that, we do want to establish that there's not going to be a traditional story with this set, which is kind of buck wild, in my opinion. We have a major character returning in Elspeth, but not just coming back, literally coming back from the dead, basically. But no need for a story with that. Don't worry about it.
That was a cool weapon that apparently Ashiok made, so we're not going to get any of that motivation either.
Oh, definitely not. And then, assumedly, important stuff's going to happen, in every Magic set, but she's got a grudge with a god. I think that might end poorly for one of them, probably.
I mean, hopefully. Heliod deserves it.
Yeah, he's kind of a jerk. But let's go back and talk a little bit about some of the mechanics that we're going to be seeing, and we have some returning mechanics and some new ones. And once the website loads,
the first one is Escape. That's one of those new ones. We saw that we got a preview of that because of Elspeth Sun's Nemesis, and we saw those decks on MTG Arena.
Yes, correct.
But Escape is flavorful because a big part of the storyline is that there's literally, I think one of the cards we saw is Underworld Breach, right? Yeah. So lots of dead things are having a chance to get out of the underworld, and this is where that Greek trope sort of shifts a little bit, right? Because the idea here is that the returned, they make their masks and they come back, but those who have not returned, they're just chilling in the underground.
Yeah, they're just hanging out.
So, but Escape is an activated ability. It will have various CMCs. So the example on the website here is Underworld Ragehound, which is 1 generic and a red for a 3/1 creature elemental hound. It attacks each combat if able, and has Escape for 3 generic and a red. Exile 3 other cards from your graveyard. You may cast this from your graveyard, you may cast this card from your graveyard for its escape cost. So essentially, you are recasting it. So it's going back on the stack. But you exile other cards and it comes back. Yeah. And this one says it escapes with a +1/+1 counter on it. So I think that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, typically most of these have sort of a bonus when they break out of prison. Of some
I like that they have gotten more flexible with their wording on that. Like, you know, when it escapes, do this.
Yeah,
like that's logical wording to me that I like that they've avoided sometimes in the past. Right, like before this would say like if this card was cast from your graveyard.
Yeah,
like you're like, so I just like the idea of like escapes and like, yes, they have to put more rules text in there, and like for some players maybe that'd be harder to get, but I think like it streamlines it saves a lot of words.
Yeah, nice. And again, like you said, it's logical. It makes sense when people read it.
Right.
I mean, like, escape is interesting. All of these escape cards, I think, have pretty varied like costs with them as well. And so obviously there were a lot of knobs that they could like tune the cards with. I always worry about graveyard mechanics though. We do have tools in standard and obviously the other formats to kind of rein these in, but some of the cards that they previewed that we may talk about on the show have been problematic, maybe problematic.
So far, what I haven't seen, like, so when we have these graveyard mechanics, one of the things that normally happens is that, like, so if it's like Reanimator, then like you're cheating on cost. If it's Delve, you're cheating on cost.
Yeah.
Or like even what we saw with like Haunted Dead and Prized Amalgam, you're cheating on cost.
Yes.
Here so far, we don't seem to have that too much. Most of the things are priced in a similar fashion, or even more expensive. Or if not, then they have a much higher cost as far as like the exiling. So I think they have worked harder on this. That being said, I do agree with you. Like there are some of these cards that like have the potential to come back over and over and over again, and that's very much by design. They previewed a draw card today that was like, it's like Think Twice. It's like blue and a generic draw card, and that has escape for 3. And I think it's like 3 and exile 3, right?
It's 5.
Or it's exile 5. Okay,
yeah, so it's exile 5.
But like that design is interesting, but the design is literally there to like you can keep doing this all game if you want. I do not understand how instants and sorceries escape. It's
when you shoot spells out of the underworld.
I got some Roman candles.
Yes, exactly.
Take that, Erebos.
I'm putting holes in your ceiling. Deal with it.
Oh man, you ever shot Roman candles into like a body of water?
No.
It's the most satisfying thing in the world because you can see them just go under and just like, and you're just like, yeah, this is cool.
I'm doing a cool thing.
Yeah, you immediately become 9 the second you do it. You're like, yeah, this is the one.
So the next mechanic is a returning mechanic in Devotion. So Devotion cares about the basically the mana symbols and the cost of permanents you control, basically. So the card we have is Daxos, Blessed by the Sun, who is returning as a demigod. He was a human and then became like a zombie, and then he's like, I'm actually part god now. Deal with it. Like to know how that happened.
I don't know.
Don't know. All right, that's fine. But for he costs white, and his toughness is equal to the devotion of white. So it's a 2x or 2-star. And it says whenever another creature you control enters the battlefield or dies, you gain a life. So, but devotion's a fairly simple mechanic, and kind of depending on how you look at it, either you liked it or it was kind of the scourge of your existence because you hated that standard format where devotion was king. So it depends on what they decide to kind of do with it. We've already seen a lot of how devotion kind of works out. And I mean, it just depends. I don't know if I hope it doesn't become as oppressive as it was when we first had Theros, standard. And we are getting gods back as well. I don't know if that's actually a listed mechanic or not. No, it's not. But we are getting gods back. Gods had a very strong devotion mechanic, and they still do for the ones that we've seen printed. Right. So, moving on, you can take the next one.
It's Constellation. So it's another returning mechanic. Mm-hmm. Constellation these are triggers whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control. What's interesting about this is in our example card behavior, Setessan Champion, 2 generic and green for a 1/3 creature human warrior, has Constellation. Whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Setessan Champion and draw a card. So this is an Enchantress throwback.
Yes.
The interesting thing though is that like Constellation is a card, as an ability type, is generally on things that
are enchantment creatures.
Yeah, so like that's very interesting. But it makes sense. Constellation was something they said they wanted to. I remember when they the first Theros block, Constellation didn't come out until Journey into Nyx, the third set in the block. So they didn't get to do as much with it. So it makes sense that they would bring it back.
Yeah. And then the last mechanic are sagas. So sagas are coming back from Dominaria, and obviously I think this is a very perfect fit for Theros.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's when you're looking at the sort of where they're building the set from, there's obviously a lot of tales and stories of of a bunch of coming from what was it? It's Greek, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
So
Greek.
But the one we have here is the Crowan War. It's 3 generic for an enchantment, 3 generic red for an enchantment saga, and it says for the first chapter, gain control of target creature for as long as the Crowan War remains on the battlefield. And it says until your next turn, creatures your opponents control attack each combat if able, and then on the third chapter, each tapped creature deals damage to itself equal to its power. So this is sort of a pseudo board wipe card, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, it depends on what you're doing.
It really depends on what you're doing, but I think it's just cool that we're going to see more Saga cards, which means we get more excellent phone background art.
Yeah,
which is very exciting.
Yeah, we get great art, and I think sagas are like one of the best things coming to Dominaria. It was a cool card type, and like has a really cool way of like again telling a story on a card, but also has like unique functionality. So I'm glad to see them back, and I have an assumption we're going to see sagas a lot.
I hope so. I mean, like, obviously Dominaria and Theros kind of set themselves up as planes where that makes sense.
A lot of lore.
Yeah. I'm honestly surprised that Throne didn't have any, but I feel like with, sort of the, what they were doing with, like, the adventure cards and stuff like that, maybe they felt like they could have enough flavor with those, when you look at, like, Lovestruck Beast and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where you can kind of tell a story. Maybe they felt they didn't necessarily need those, but I'm glad to see him back. I really do like the card type. So.
Yeah, it's a good design. Yeah, definitely a highlight.
So moving past Theros, we do know that there are going to be challenger decks that are going to be returning, which are going to have cards from all sets, which is important. So like even Theros cards will be.
Yeah, I stuck it here with Theros, but it just like these were the challenger decks from was last year, right? 2018.
Yes, they've had 3. This will be the 3rd time they've had challenger decks. Yeah,
they've all been honestly pretty competent decks.
Oh, for sure,
and good value. Like these are a good paper way for people to jump into competitive.
To standard for sure. So. And depending on what's in there, maybe even Pioneer, which is kind of hilarious.
That's a fair point.
So I'm glad to see those are returning. They're a good product. I hope they continue with the quality that they've had and the amount of like actual valuable, powerful cards that you actually get in them. But we also have now the question is, I wonder what archetypes they are. Like that's my question.
Yeah, I mean we'll have to see because this will be. Those are designed with with Theros in mind a little bit, and they technically I don't know when they have to print those, but they probably still have a little bit of time.
Yeah,
where they can like observe a tiny bit of Thrones or a tiny bit of Theros standard and go, oh, okay.
Yeah, but I just wonder like what the actual timeline and how that's all going to shake out and everything, but we'll see. And then we also have collector's edition. So we still have collector edition boosters that are going to be released. They're going to have similar art treatments that we've seen from our Throne of Eldraine collector's boosters. It's also important to note that they still have that ancillary card slot, but we obviously don't have Brawl decks for Throne of Theros, and that is because the booster packs that are I forget what they're called. The theme booster packs will have exclusive cards in them, which is interesting.
None of them are great, but some of them are definitely Brawl playable.
The Red Dragon.
I saw like getting some Perforos talk.
Right. So Perforos, the new Perforos that they're going to be having, is he 4 mana or 5
mana?
So it's 5 generic and a red for a 7/6 creature, legendary creature god enchantment. Isn't a creature unless you have 5 devotion to red. And then other creatures you control have haste, and you can pay 2 generic and a red to put a artifact creature or a red creature onto the battlefield. It gains haste, and then you sack it at the end of turn.
Yeah, it's sneak attack for red and artifact creatures.
Yeah. And the dragon itself, when it enters the battlefield, gives all your creatures double strike.
And then it has double strike
itself.
So yeah, you get to...
So, yeah, that could be
5/5,
problematic.
so like that's 10 by itself, and then whatever else you have.
I mean, it
That's
has double
2 red mana symbols,
right.
devotion. So
yeah,
that's but like I know some people like the Minotaur one, depending on what's happening and like what you want for Brawl or Commander. But like that's like the 7 mana search for.
Yes, but it's pretty good with Iron Crag Feet, where you get like it's the you can do that on like turn 4 or 5.
Yeah,
it's pretty all right. Depends on what Minotaurs you're getting. I mean, obviously that I think we're more likely talking about Pioneer because there's just more of an option to get.
Yeah,
I think you can set up to kill them on that turn because of the Minotaurs you could actually get, because you get ones that get like haste and all that jazz. So that's cute. I don't know if it's viable, but it is cute. And then we want to talk a little bit about some of the cards, but kind of just get our thoughts so far about it. And realistically, there are definitely some things that I am interested in. I'll say that, but there are some cards that definitely, they had sort of their deconstruction about Throne of Eldraine, and they said it was very close to kind of the power level that they wanted within Standard. And I'm looking at, I see some of the cards that they're printing and putting in this set, and it's just like, it feels like they are really pushing things. And to me, like that is a little bit worrisome. I guess.
mean, we knew they were going to. That's
true. That's true. I mean,
they guaranteed it for us.
That is true.
With the article about all the bannings for Eldraine.
Right.
So.
But one of the cards that I wanted to talk about, because we actually got a question about it today on Twitter, is Tyranmet Calls the Dead.
Yeah, that question about that was messed up. And yeah, the answer is yes, of course.
So this still does give Mike Hogak vibes with the art.
Yeah,
because it's just the portals into damnation of eyes and mouth.
Yeah, no, it's not good. This looks a lot like the poop monster from Dogma. Like that, it's not good.
I can also only read the title of this card in like the opening card to a Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where it's like the gang does playing songs. Tyranmet Calls the Dead. But the card is 2 generic and a black for an enchantment saga. The first 2 chapters are pretty easy. It's put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard. Then you may exile a creature card from your graveyard. If you do, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. And it says on chapter 3, you gain X life and scry X, where X is the number of zombies you control. Now, important, the scry does happen after you've drawn, which is kind of awkward, but sets you up a little bit for the next turn. But I think this card is okay. There are a lot of cards that in like the Pioneer format that do extend and care about zombies, and this reads like a worse History Benalia. But
yeah, I mean, maybe I don't.
I'm not saying it's good, but that's just what it reads to me like.
I definitely think it's interesting for sure.
We had to talk about that card, so it would freak Mike out. And
the answer is yes, it does, and I really wish they would move away from these horrific images.
From that, we do have at least one returning card that is going to be.
A spicy one?
We have Grey Merchant of Asphodel returning.
Oh, for some reason I thought you were going to talk about Idyllic Tutor.
I mean, Idyllic Tutor is also returning. That is true. So Grey Merchant is when it ETBs, it drains you for the devotion to black you have, and it's a 2/4 for 5. But that was a very dominant card inside of original Theros Standard. So, but yeah, Idyllic Tutor is something that we haven't seen. That was in oh dang, I forgot which set it was.
Lorwyn, right?
Yeah, it must have been Lorwyn because I wasn't playing when it was out, but it's 2 generic and a white for a sorcery, and then search your library for an enchantment card, reveal it, and put it into your hand. And this is pretty important because we're going to have a lot of enchantment creatures, so it kind of can be a tutor for not only just enchantments, but also, your gods, your enchantment creatures, what have you, can, help you find your Heliod when you have your Walking Ballista and want to, combo off later on in the game.
That is...
But we should actually probably talk about that. That's probably the most relevant thing that people are currently talking about. Yesterday, we actually got all of the monocolored gods are returning. And Heliod was one we got yesterday. It's 2 generic and a white for a legendary enchantment creature, god. It's indestructible as long as your devotion to white is less than 5. It isn't a creature. And it says, whenever you gain life, put a 1/1 counter on target creature or enchantment you control. And it has an activated ability of 1 generic and a white. Another target creature gains a lifelink until end of turn. So people quickly establish that this is a combo with Walking Ballista, because Walking Ballista can gain lifelink if you activate the ability, and then you have to have at least 2 counters on Walking Ballista, but you ping, you will gain a life, you'll put another walking counter on Walking Ballista, and so on and so forth. It's an infinite combo that'll kill technically as soon as turn 3, and someone explained this to me. So it's turn 1, Elvish Mystic.
Okay.
Turn 2, Heliod.
Turn 3, Ballista for 1.
Radiant Fountain.
Oh.
Then you put a wall. Then you can give it. Then you can do it because you can't. Because you have to pay. Because you have 4 mana, right? Uh-huh. So you have to have 2 mana left over for the activation.
Oh, right.
So you can. It is convoluted, but you can technically do it on turn 3. But more than likely, it is a turn 4 kill. Man, basically,
so I'm not allowed to have spoilers win, but you all can have.
Well, and to be honest, that's the question. Is that something that they are okay with existing within the within the format of Pioneer, or is it something that they're going to have to rectify? I think Modern may or may not have a more competent time of dealing with this, but I don't really know, to be perfectly honest. Obviously, Saheeli combo still exists within Modern, so is this worse than Saheeli combo? Because you don't have so many restrictive color requirements. You just have to play white. You can play any other colors along the side of that because Walking Ballista is colorless.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's tough. It's just super tough to evaluate. It's something that we're just going to see in practice, I think. I don't know. If they didn't preemptively ban Felidar Guardian, they're not going to preemptively ban Walking Ballista or anything that.
I do think that's a little bit different. Maybe I'm wrong, but I do think it's a little bit different.
Maybe
because they were ready to ban Felidar Guardian. It was the first ban in the format, besides fetch lands. So I don't know. I expect to see Walking Ballista on Monday? No, but I can't see that being something that's okay in the format. I can't.
Do you think it's Walking Ballista that goes though, or do you think they?
Oh, absolutely, it's Walking Ballista that goes. Yeah. Walking Ballista is problematic for a number of decks. There's multiple combo decks going around right now that use Walking Ballista as its kill condition in Pioneer. Paradox Engine being the current hotness, if you haven't seen that deck.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of it.
Using Emery and just a lot of weird things to do. So I think Ballista is a problematic card in Pioneer. If they I say that with a specific 2-card combo kill, it becomes problematic enough that it probably gets banned. I don't think they'll ban Heliod.
Fair enough.
So
I'll let you pick a card here.
I have 2 cards I want to make mention. First off is Kunaros, Hound of Athreos, because man, that's some good boys there.
It's very good boys.
Well, generic white black for a 3/3 legendary creature Hound, Vigilance, Menace, Lifelink. Creature cards in graveyards can't enter the battlefield. Players can't cast spells from graveyards. This card just does it all and is very good on rate. So I like this card a lot. It's legendary, so it means how many can you play, and also is white black aggro a thing. But this is a powerful card on rate. It has a lot in its text box and is really tough to deal with. Vigilance, Menace, Lifelink is a combination of abilities we have not seen. It can attack through most things with its Vigilance, and then it just sits back and it's what up?
Yeah, this is smaller questing beast. Tinier questing beast.
Questing Hound.
Yes.
And I also want to mention Atris Oracle of Half-Truths. 2 generic blue-black for a legendary creature, Human Advisor. It's a 3/2 with Menace. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent looks at the top 3 cards of your library and separates them into a face-down pile and a face-up pile. Put 1 pile into your hand and the other into your graveyard. I like this card a lot.
Games. You get to play games with people.
Yeah, you get to play shell games with people. But I think like the worst thing this says is like it's a 3/2 for 4 mana, enters the battlefield and draws a card. But like if we have a bunch of escape shenanigans, the other pile going to your graveyard's a big deal.
Yeah.
I
That's
think
an interesting tension to exist.
don't get me wrong, Menace and Death Touch are not the same, but I do think this card rates comparably to Gonti in my mind.
Yeah, and like Gonti was very playable in that format.
100%. So and I think like if you have any shenanigans you can do with this card, then it gets kind of spicy. But I think this card's cool for Constructed, but I also think like this is a card that like I'm putting this in Battle Box because I want to play this game and I want to see it in Limited too. Like this is a card I'm going to enjoy casting.
Yeah, that's awesome. There are some other important cards. We'll circle back around to them for a while, but we should probably move along.
Yeah, fair enough.
So there's going to be a change in the ban and restricted announcement, basically. And they're kind of, they had one on December 16th, and then there were no changes in any formats. And then they kind of said that they are not going to basically say when the next one's going to be. So there's no schedule announcement. So we just know that they will exist, and then at some point in time, past I think January 6th, right, is the next one we have for Pioneer.
Yeah, but Monday we have Pioneer, and then it says that our next BNR update will likely be in January, and from that announcement onward, we plan to sync up Pioneer updates with the rest of our BNR
Correct,
updates. So.
Which is good. So that's kind of the end of the weekly bans that we would expect to see.
But then we will no longer have any idea. Technically, like they'll come on Mondays.
Yes.
But we generally will not get an announcement as to like when they are. We cannot set a date for when they'll happen.
Which, okay, I think like that.
They said this gives them more freedom. I have a real problem with that in general.
Yeah.
Because they set all of the dates. They can change it whenever they want. We've seen it. They've done it.
Mm-hmm.
They did it, November was the most recent one? They just changed the date, right?
Yeah.
They can do what they want. So them feeling pressure to like do these things, like do them whenever you want. I get that. But why in the world does why does it have to be secret now? Like that feels so punishing to your player base because, we'd like to believe that there'll be less bans, but 2019 we could easily call the year of the ban.
Yeah,
Magic. Like, boy!
And when you're telling us you're going to be, cranking up the power level of your standard cards, so it's just like, it doesn't breed consumer confidence.
No, it certainly doesn't.
And I think that's troubling for people because there's always been like a stigma of like picking up the best deck because like you never know when it's going to get banned, and now it's like that's even worse. So I don't know if that's like a problem that they care about, and it may not be, but you can only invest in so many like cards that get banned. So you're like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm playing in an event. I'm playing in the Open this weekend, and then I have to decide: do I sell my Okos?
Yeah,
probably. Right.
I would have to say that you probably should.
But then if it doesn't get banned in January, then like I have this idea of like it'll probably get banned, but now I can't play with the card.
Right.
But if I keep playing with the card, then I, as a mid-tier Magic player, may miss out on the chance to swap $120 to $130 worth of cards for other usable cards. So, yeah, I don't know. It's I think this is miserable.
That's not an interesting tension. we mentioned that the shell game with that card wasn't. That's not an interesting tension.
I think like when WotC as a corporate as a corporate entity, and Hasbro says these things like we want more flexibility. They control everything. They are as flexible as they want to be. Yeah. So it's executive speak for trash. Like this is stupid.
Here's what the thing is: they don't want they want to have the flexibility of it happening whenever they want to, without the responsibility of having to say it's coming. Right.
Right. 100%.
So they don't want that to ripple through the financial universe. So they just want people to get got by holding expensive cards.
Yeah, and like this is they make mention of like, them trying to play around tournaments, and that's supposedly why they did the one in November. But like this, I think that has the opposite reaction where it's like, man, I'm considering, like, I'm planning out my next few months, right?
Yeah.
So like if I'm a Modern player, right, I am, and I'm playing a deck this weekend that has 4 Okos in it, I am, right? And then I was planning my events for the next 3 months, right? Well, there's technically no ban and restricted announcement. I'm planning to go play in those Modern events. Oh, well, I wish I hadn't done that because you may or may not ban my Okos. You know what I mean? Like, that's just...
Yeah, I mean, it's tough for, like, your planning, and if you, like, and theoretically, like, playing devil's advocate, like, the format in Modern could change drastically due to new sets coming out. Like, we saw that with Throne, where, there have been a lot of cards from that set that have made impacts in the Modern format. So alternatively, there could be things that are like that could be happening to detriment your ability to play whatever deck you have.
Sure.
So planning that far out is risky either way, but I don't need the company that's selling me the cards to make it worse. I guess.
Yeah.
Like, you already make it work. Like, they already make it, troublesome because they release new sets, and that's exciting. We enjoy that, but also, like, planning your tournament existence around that can be difficult. So I think it's a troubling move if you are a paper player. I think, like, that is the worst part, is this only incentivizes you to go more digital, because if they ban your card in digital, you get the card back, right?
Yes.
You can reinvest
in
it.
Arena, but not
Magic Online.
Online,
Specifically Arena is what I'm talking about. Yes, specifically
a vendor
Arena.
finally bought my Splinter Twins. It's one of those things where, like, I go to sell other cards that I've
and
opened,
they're just always there.
and, like, they're there, and, like, eventually, like, one of the
Someone will
vendors
get
is
them.
like, oh, all right, here's 0.29 ticks per. It's like, all right, cool,
Thank
thanks.
you.
So
see, that's when you realize that you should have drafted more and 20 on Magic Online, because then you could have had all those Thorn Cavaliers that are $60 cards, apparently.
that's amazing.
Yeah, because they're played in the green ramp deck now in Pioneer.
Yep.
And again, everyone played Arena to draft that set.
It's crazy. So I've been grinding, not to switch to super topics, so I've been grinding the Blue Out Monument deck of mine on Pioneer, and, like, some of the random cards I've opened, because I open all the chests. I probably should sell them, but I don't care. Like, I opened one that I got 100 play points out of it, and I was like, yeah. But, like, I opened a Golos, and I was like, well, where's Golos seeing you play? No, that's still an $8 ticket card. I was like, okay, sure. So I opened a Lotus Petal. That's a $15
nice
Magic Online card. I was like,
perfect.
All right, sweet. So yeah, just a bunch of random cards in there where you're like, that shouldn't be the price of this, but I'm okay with that.
But here it is.
So.
And then lastly, for our community topics, we wanted to talk about the Magic Legends, which is a MMO that's going to be coming out. So, MMO talking like World of Warcraft, EverQuest for the real far
Final
back.
Fantasy 14.
Final Fantasy 14 is
I'm
another
trying to think
popular
of, like,
one.
ones that are popular still now.
Right.
Like, obviously WoW is. Final Fantasy 14 is.
Yeah.
I don't know another really popular MMO.
I mean, like, there probably isn't. You could probably say, like, maybe the Star Wars, the Old Republic one is still
Is it still
active.
going?
It's still active. I looked it up recently. But it's made by, I think, Relic?
It's Cryptic Studios.
Cryptic Studios, which have from what I understand, kind of a so-so.
Yeah, they don't have a great
history.
Like,
it's Perfect World and Cryptic.
oh,
They both have pretty so-so histories, from what I understand. Yeah. No.
So I don't know.
I'm gonna pass on this.
Because at least I'm not signing up for the beta or anything. But because it's going to get a PS4 release, I may be more interested in this. Granted, I've not done like Final Fantasy 14, but I don't know. I think Magic as an IP lends itself well to an MMO, right? Like, because just like going back to when I played WoW, right? Like you're always talking about like different areas. Like you go to this area and you level this area and do this. Well, like Magic has planes and you're a planeswalker, so you go to this plane, you go to this plane. Now, lore wise, a Magic MMO where you just like sign in and become a planeswalker is infuriating. Where it's like, you are one of the 1 in a million, and it's just like, so are you, and you, and you, and you, and you. But I do think like it does itself well for that. But I also just don't I don't know. Like the trailer looked fine, but I don't feel like this is going to have the loving care that I would want. So
no, definitely not.
I don't need Guild Wars 3. You know what I mean? Like
yeah. I am interested to see if like that's the actual conceit is like if your character is a planeswalker. I think like that. I mean I guess like if you spin it,
they're showing multiple planes in the trailer.
Yeah, for sure. I know that like that's definitely a conceit. But dang, if that's not just
there's at least Innistrad and Zendikar like by obvious like
architecture and stuff like that,
and I think Ravnica as well because I'm fairly certain there's Orzhov.
Oh, there's definitely Ravnica.
So like that's the 3 distinct planes they're showing. So I think that has to be part of it. Like you're a planeswalker.
Yeah, I guess it's just I agree with you. It just if everyone's a planeswalker, then like no one's a planeswalker. Yes, it's the syndrome.
You got
theory.
A planeswalker participation award.
But
what's the planeswalker that made shields? Teo. You're Teo. You did it.
And like that's
you're good at geometry.
I don't know. I think it's gonna be bad.
If you're excited for it, that's cool.
That's true. I don't want to like put your rain on your parade or whatever. Even though I definitely am. I think it's gonna be bad though.
I'm happy to see WotC in Hasbro like recognize that the Magic IP is somewhat important, and like so now we're getting a TV show, and now we're gonna get like an MMO. Like the thing is that like it does seem like the home front's getting watered down a little bit, and like hey, here's this MMO where we're gonna tell all these stories, but our current set will have no story. Like it's those things where it's just like you look at those things and you're like, why can't you make decisions together that support each other?
Why does it feel like no one is actually
to each other
working
ever
together? You're all just in silos, which, to be fair, that is what people have heard about working at Wizards is like you stay in your lane and you don't talk to your other groups.
100%.
So that's fun. That's a cool thing. That's how you should set up your company. I'm shaking my head now. Anyway, so that's all of our community topics. Before we jump into our competitive segment, did want to give a quick shout out to Comic Town, our lovely sponsor. They're going to be hosting Team BCW this Friday at 8 p.m. You can check your deck for the SCG Open against them, and the first 30 challengers will receive free Elite 2 deck cards. And the first 15 winners will receive additional prizes, or an additional prize. So yeah, go down to Comic Town this Friday and beat up on some BCW people.
Yeah,
just kidding. They'll beat them up. Beat them up with cards.
The free sleeves are nice. The
Elite 2 are great. Full disclosure, we used to be sponsored by BCW, but no longer.
Still have a pretty good working relationship with them.
100%.
And they are quality products.
Yeah, I agree. So we are going to shift into competitive, but obviously there's been a lot that has happened. So we decided to kind of go back to going to turns. So we are, I'll just hand it over to Mike. He can explain the new structure for us.
Okay, so yeah, we're gonna shift up. I think going forward, how we do the competitive segment, if that makes sense. We've tried to focus on like all of the tournaments, and therefore sometimes that hurts us doing any of the tournaments. So we're gonna shift that a little bit on a week like this week, where we, the last tournament was the Players Championship, and like we don't really have much going on. We're gonna do a revamped version of Going to Turns. Now, if you are a longtime listener, then you know the Going to Turns was like a competitive segment we did where we had 2 people compete. We're going to reduce the competitive element of this. Instead, we're going to turn this into sort of a potpourri section. So I think we have 7 or 8 categories, and because in Magic you only get 5 extra turns, we could argue 3 because we're kind of 2 at a giant, I guess, but we'll go with 5.
We're going to go 5.
So we have different topics. I'll present a topic, and then we each get the chance to either play that turn, right? So we can talk about the topic, or we can pass it. So we have to do 5 out of these. So they're going to run the gamut of a couple different things. Some things that put on there I want to talk about, or Morgan wants to talk about, and some may just be random. But so again, multiple topics. We get to talk about 5 of them. So if you talk about the first 5, you don't get to talk about the other 2. And yes, we can talk about the same ones, but yeah. So let's try this here. So first topic: has SCG tarnished their brand? Morgan, do you want to play this turn?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
So this is, I think, in reference at the very least to their new website launch. I can't think of anything.
That is part of it.
I can't think of anything else off the top of my head. I guess like with the new
the firing of Tom Ross,
yeah,
and the public fallout from that,
and I think I think people are potentially upset over the shifting to all of their articles being premium.
Also true.
I wouldn't be one of those people because writers should get paid. So, but that's just how it is. But that's just my stance on it. As far as their website change, it's bad. It's garbage. And I think that is I think that's hurting them. I think it has been hurting them. It has never worked properly for me. It was real bad when it launched. At least now it keeps me signed in. When it launched, it just didn't. Or I couldn't sign in, or just multiple things preventing me from actually interacting positively with their website. And it still doesn't work properly. It still does not work to my liking. And it definitely hurts my want to use it, to like go to it and use it for anything, because I know that I'm going to have a really hard time interacting with it. And I don't know. I don't know why they decided to do the things that they did and launch it the way they did. I think it launched poorly. I think it's been poorly received by just about everyone that can speak freely about it. And I think that does hurt their brand. I think that it does give room for other competition to move in and show how good their sites are and how they work effectively. I think that the one thing that they do still have over a lot of other brands, though, is I do think that the people that write their articles are some of the best Magic writers that we currently have. Because they're people that are actively like in there. They're actively like in the fields. They're actively doing and putting their money where their mouth is. And I think like that is what keeps people coming back and keeps people engaged in premium. So while I do think that the website's garbage and pretty bad, like I will still go there and seek out those articles because I know the people that are writing them are competent. And realistically, over time, a website can get better. So I hope that that's what happens. As far as the public fallout with, them firing or letting go of writers or people, or, a bunch of conjecture about what people have said about other people that work for that is like, that's just that is overall like that's just petty. To be perfectly honest, I think like you may not get along with everyone that you work with, and people may have different personas outwardly and privately. So like that is just how people are. And I don't pay attention to that. Like the quality of the website comes from the people that write for it. And I do feel like they have needed to shake that up, and they've done so. If those writers are good enough and competent enough, they'll find a way to, seek out those opportunities if they want them, if they want to still continue to do that. And if they want to do that, I hope that they find those opportunities, but I don't expect everything to stay stagnant forever as well, regardless of whatever I'm watching. I do hope that changes that they do going forward are better and not just garbage, and don't have accurate solutions to some of the problems that people come into with the website. But overall, I think the brand is tarnished, but they'll be fine.
I'm going to play this turn as well. Yeah, I tend to agree with you about the small stuff, like the Tom Ross and everything else like that. That is petty. I do think though its timing was poor, because like ostensibly like the decision to get rid of some writers is because they wanted to keep that quality stable of writers, and like that's awkward when like the site is so poor. I think like out of our close friends, I'm the only one who still has premium. Part of that is because
I still have premium.
Oh, did you? I thought you didn't have premium.
I have premium. Okay, I signed up for premium to read an article by someone.
Gotcha. Fair
so
enough.
They got me. Like I think that's a perfect thing, and I haven't gotten rid of it because like there've been articles that have come out that I actively wanted to pursue.
No, I agree with you on that. Like their stable of writers is important. I have premium. Granted, I'm grandfathered into an older price point, but the website, especially the last few weeks, and trying to order cards for SCG Columbus, everything else has been nothing but a headache. I specifically had an issue on the mobile site finding On Thin Ice because it couldn't stop looking up Ice Age cards, so you couldn't find the card. And when I tweeted about this, they said the same thing Morgan had said to me, which was like, "Oh, I'll put it in quotes." Here's the thing. I'm a child of the internet. I understand how to force a search engine to search for direct terms. I've done basic computer programming. The fact that I have to do that when I didn't have to before is sad.
It's
and also,
embarrassing, yeah.
It was broken on the website, so it still didn't
on the
work.
mobile site.
It changed Findhorn Bow to Elkin Bottle.
There we go.
For me, and they tried to tell me that if you use the quotes trick, I'm like, this isn't a trick. That's like saying I hacked your Facebook because you forgot to log out. You know what I mean? So that was bad. I also noticed that I went and registered for SCG Columbus, which redirects to old.starcitygames.com because their event hosting hasn't migrated yet.
Yo, give me that old .starcitygames.com access.
You can use their search engine on the old Star City Games. It has the Theros stuff on there too, the pre-orders, and it redirects you to the new site, but it does redirect you to the card you searched for. So okay, it's bad, and for the leader essentially in TCG sales and the only other tournament series that still exists in the United States, that it's a bad look. It's a very bad look. You can't stay logged into the site if you do have premium. It kicks you out every single time. It is a ball of frustrations when the old website didn't have that. So when I look for a website redesign, obviously they paid a lot of money for this website redesign, which is probably why they don't want to let go of it. But you should, when you do a website redesign, you should tell me okay, here's what works. Here's what I need to have changed. If it is, let's make a change for the sake of looking sleeker or whatever else, that's a bad decision. And whoever they went with did a bad job for them. So, I'm sorry for that. It's bad, and I do think they've tarnished themselves a little bit because, I bought cards to them because I want to do event pickup, but I literally have no reason to keep looking and buying cards from them. I just don't. It is horrible to try and do. So, all right, next question: predictions for the last I'd say the last scheduled Pioneer Band.
Yes,
because we get one more. Morgan, do you want to play this turn?
I don't, no.
Okay.
No.
I will play this turn.
Okay.
My predictions for the last scheduled Pioneer ban. I do think that if they are going to ban anything else, it might be something from that green ramp deck. And it could be maybe something as simple as Walking Ballista and in preparation for Heliod, because we don't know when the next band's coming. I do think that they can't look at Heliod and Walking Ballista and think this is going to be okay.
Yeah, this is fine.
Maybe they do, but I do think that maybe something from that green ramp deck gets banned because there's not a lot of tools in this format. We talk about Field of Dead. Field of Dead was hard to interact with. The ramp decks are hard to interact with, and it's gaining a fair amount of metagame share. It's the third overall metagame. Now, granted, it's 5%, something on MTG Goldfish, but we never really know what that means anymore because we only get single lists. But I do think it's kind of hard to interact with, and most of the top end of that deck gives even the control decks the same problems they had before, which is they have a lot of uncounterable effects and a lot of triggered abilities and things that are difficult to interact with that your traditional control cards don't always stop. So I think it may be interesting. I don't know what the card is from that though, so I will just say generically a card from the ramp deck, and I think maybe Walking Ballista.
So when I see the ramp deck, I try to think back. It's wild because most of the cards that are in this deck were all standard legal together. These were all a deck before. I've played this deck in standard before. So it's really hard to be why was that deck allowed to exist in standard for as long as, or what were its counterparts? What were the things that...
What I will say is you did not have Ugin and Ulamog together in standard.
Is that true?
You had, what, Ugin was...
Ugin's Fate Reforged.
And, maybe you did for a little bit.
I'm pretty sure you did. I'm pretty sure that deck played for Ugin.
Because you had fetch lands with the Tango lands.
Yeah. So
yeah, here's the thing. I don't know.
It's tough.
What it is, but
maybe so.
Well, I'll tell you what it is. It's 8 elves.
Yeah,
it's 8 elves.
See, these decks don't even play like a lot of elves, if any. The list I'm looking at right now has no elves in it.
There's multiple builds that are playing a lot of the elves. There's builds that are playing Nissa's Pilgrimage. There's builds that are playing the 5-mana one, the search for, what was it?
Yeah.
Search for 2 lands.
Most of the time what I see is Arboreal Grazer as being the 4 of, which is something that didn't exist. But do you think it's like Castle Garenbrig?
I honestly don't know. I don't know. It could be, maybe it's something like Shrine of the Forsaken Gods or Sanctum of Ugin. Something like minor, just to take a little bit of power level out of it. Because, like, boy, those decks are consistent. So, but I could be wrong there, and maybe they're not doing as well as I think overall. But they're
the number one archetype according to MTG Goldfish.
But I think
they're good.
I think Pioneer has a hole. Like, there's a gap in how to deal with these, because the aggressive strategies, especially when you took away Smuggler's Copter from like Mono Black, we have not seen an actual aggressive strategy. Even like the red decks that you've been looking at are big red.
Yeah,
they are not fast enough. I've been playing the Blue White Monument deck, not close enough to fast enough to swarm them. And so much of the rest of the format is built around like either these control decks right now, or like a lot of value, like a little like maybe just because maybe the format needs a shift, and maybe that instead of banning, they'll see it. But I do think something from that deck could get banned.
So. Yeah, I don't disagree with you. It's just, but I think like the question is what. See, like I think what I hope in there is what they have is something to actually help us against this type of strategy, because I think like the reason why it's so prevalent is because the cards that we have to like affect lands just aren't effective against.
We do get Field of Ruin, but we already have that.
But it's not, again, it's just not effective as what this deck is doing. This deck is just like a traditional like ramp deck. Yeah. It's not like, you know, it's not something where you can disable it with a Alpine Moon. You know, we're not targeting a specific land. It's not like a Tron deck where we can use like Dampening Sphere to like reduce like, you know, mana production or or anything like that. We just don't have a good way of people just like playing lands and then casting big spells. Like you just don't have those good interaction points against what this deck is doing. And especially since a lot of the time, like it is playing things like Nissa's Pilgrimage, but it's also just playing like creatures that ramp you. It's playing the Elvish Rejuvenator. Yeah, like all these creatures that are just doing this, and it's just like no deck is set up to be able to combat all of this,
and I don't know what that deck is that would be set up to do that and could still compete against the rest of the format.
I to be honest, like it's just something that it does. Like when you say that there's the hole in the format, like that it's absolutely true. Like there's just no more punishing these sort of decks, because you'll just be able to do whatever you want. Eventually, you know, it goes over the top of everything. And I think that it's really difficult to kind of like surgically remove something. I mean, in all honesty, it could just be a Arboreal Grazer. Just like, and maybe that's not true because they would just go back to playing elves, but it's just like, I don't know. It's tough. I think this deck is definitely tough to kind of look at and analyze and be like, how do we disable it? How do we take it down a notch?
Yeah, so. I don't know. Maybe it could be. I don't think they want to ban like one of the larger threats, but maybe it could be like an Ugin or an Ulamog too. Like maybe just take away one of the big threats. But all right, next question. So I answered that one. Morgan cheated a little bit, but it's okay. We'll let him.
Sorry.
Oh, it's totally fine. Worst Magic memory from 2019. Now this could be personal, or like the worst thing you think that happened in Magic. Now there's going to be a best too, so don't think we're just I'm just like picking and choosing the worst. I'll ask myself first. I don't want to play this turn. There's so much negativity. I feel like I will just rant. So I'm going to pass on this one. Morgan, do you want to play this turn?
Nah, I don't think so. Let's skip on being negative.
All right, fair enough. I like that. Okay, different, same criteria, but best Magic memory. So this again can be personal or otherwise. Morgan, do you want to play this turn? A lot of good radio right here. Morgan's thinking about it.
I think I will.
Okay. Go for it.
As far as like the best Magic memory, in all honesty, like I think something that is kind of like I would say up there in like a weird sort of way is like Garruk coming back.
Okay.
And like being cured of his curse in Throne of Eldraine. Like that's a weird thing, but like we don't have like Nissa and Vivian have been like really, really. We've had so many sets with so many planeswalkers in them. It just feels like we've got like 4 Vivian cards, and she just was a new character in M19, right?
Right.
And Nissa's had a billion cards now. It feels like so we just haven't had like another vector to look at for green planeswalkers. So now we can like go to Garruk and like have a new vector, and we have had other like cards. We had Zhang Yengu for the global series that got a card in War of the Spark. But I think like he is part of the Aloran 5, and he's the only one where they couldn't like. Well, now they couldn't make cards for him, right? Yeah. Like and they did. They brought him back,
especially because he became like black as well.
Yeah,
so
like
they couldn't.
So it was harder. So like I'm interested to see like that avenue get opened up again, and have had
more of the
Garruk
Color of Beasts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's true. Especially even like his first like Garruk Wildspeaker like had a mixture between like ramp and creatures, and then it became like the creature thing. So I think there's definitely room for that, and I agree with that. I do. So that's good.
But like I said, that's just a silly one. But like I was happy to know that was the culmination of like that story in Throne of Eldraine. So
it was a nice payoff. See what can happen when you have lore.
Yeah, it's weird.
I'm going to answer this one too. I'm going to say Pioneer.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
I think I think even if you go back and listen to the first few episodes where we had it, in my initial reaction to it was, man, this is a lot, because WotC threw out a lot. But I think like out of all the stuff they've thrown out, this is the one that has like really stuck. I have had a lot of fun with this format, and like I think it definitely coincides with the negative, which is like Modern getting sort of worse.
Yeah.
But like we have been on this talking about like people's format and the format where you can like do these things, and I think like Pioneer is offering that right now, where you can go and just try out a lot of decks, and WotC's been very fluid with what the format can be and can look like, and I think like for both of us, like our prime years of playing like competitive Magic coincide with most of the sets there in Pioneer.
100%.
Morgan and I literally like what we split Navis and Restored
pre-release. Yeah,
like that's like an origin story of like our friendship.
Correct.
So like you're talking about right before RTR for that. So like all of these sets have all these cards we have familiarity with, and like I think for us sitting here, like our Magic success has been with like the cards from those sets. Our highs and our highest of highs have been with those cards.
Yeah, like so. Even when you look at Modern, like I'm not the person that going to have all the history with every single card in Modern. Like I have that now, but because I played Modern, but not beforehand. But I had all this built in, like, oh, I wonder if that card's good. Oh, I wonder if that card's good. I wonder if this archetype is good. So you already have this sort of built-in history of like things to go back to that you want to try and see like if it's viable. And the best part is a lot of the stuff just is like it's not at all solved. There are decks that are that are good and are powerful and you will encounter, but you can still bring roguish things into the format. Like there was from one of the 5.0 lists, there was a tribal dragons deck that went
Crucible of Fire.
Correct. It's just like you can still play buck wild stuff and have success with it. And obviously that's going to go away the longer the format exists, because that's probably what early Modern felt like. I didn't really play Modern super competitive early on.
Modern stayed like that for. I mean, that's why we like that format so much. You could still play 20 decks most of the time. Now you really can't do that.
Yeah.
And maybe you're right. Maybe Pioneer does go that way, but I don't know. I haven't seen it, and I think like I don't know. We'll see what it goes with it. But Pioneer is my positive thing, my best Magic thing from this year. I didn't play a lot of tournaments and have huge tournament success, but that's what it is. Next question: prediction or source of optimism for 2020? Morgan, you want to play this turn?
So I've only done 2?
You've done 2. Yes.
All right. I can do this. I can play this one.
Okay.
So I am optimistic about Ikoria, because they're doing something they haven't done before that's always been pretty heavily teased. So I'm interested to see what that is. I'm interested to see like the kaiju set, like the Godzilla Mothra set, which I think is what they're trying to set up. I think it's going to be the folding cards. That's what I think it's going to be. Like they have for Transformers, where you have the fold card and then it unfolds into a bigger card. I think like if that's your set theme and that's what you want to do, that's how you do it. And it has been like viable in Transformers. Like the player base of that, it has been accepting of how those cards function. So I do think that's what they're going to do and bring over to Magic. Because that's been something in Kaijudo, not Kaijudo, but Duel Masters for a while as well, and that's why they brought it over to Transformers. So that's my prediction, as well as something to be optimistic for coming. And Zendikar tentatively, like this will be our third time going back, but they have stated that it's going to be more of the Zendikar flavor and not Eldrazi flavor. So going back to an adventure world, and I think like there's like you only had like Zendikar, and I don't know how like Worldwake, I don't know if that still had that feel or not as far as like adventure, feel. But going back and knowing that they have that in mind is it with the idea of they're going to have like a higher power level is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I don't get to answer this one. I have thoughts about Zendikar, but we'll come back to it when we get to someone else with Zendikar. But yeah, I like that. That's cool. Those folding cards would be interesting. I could also see them using like the fuse or whatever it was. What's the meld?
Yeah,
something like that. All right. What are you playing this weekend? So, I think Morgan and I are both priced into answering the next two questions. So,
100%.
Morgan, what are you playing?
I don't know yet, to be perfectly honest.
Now, Morgan's not playing the Open.
I'm playing Pioneer. Yeah. I'm exclusively exclusive Pioneer person at this point in time. You couldn't pay me enough money to play Modern right now.
It's great because I've had Morgan's Path to Exiles for like 3 months. I'm keeping them.
You don't even know didn't even know you had them.
I don't have that.
But you just couldn't, like, the decks that I like to play just aren't viable anymore. And it's not like an interesting format for me right now. But as far as Pioneer, probably playing Big Red, more than likely. Probably playing Big Red. I want to play I want to test with some Collect Company decks though, so that might be something that I do in the next couple of days. Just because like I haven't played with a Collect Company deck, and I really just want to play Spell Queller. Like I wish I could. I don't have
that Modern. Does that help?
I just feel like that's like it can be a pretty powerful card. I want to just I
want to play Bant Company.
Maybe I want to play Bant.
You never played a Company deck?
No, I've played Company decks in Standard.
Okay.
I've never played Bant Company in Modern or anything like that. So, but that's kind of where I'm at. I don't have all the cards for the ramp deck. But that could be something that I could play, but I definitely don't have all the cards for that deck. And I don't have all the cards for like blue white, and I should play that deck.
I can help you with blue white.
I should play that deck.
Okay.
I should probably decide to like finish my games, and who I am as an individual, as a human being. So
fair enough.
Red decks that deck is slow.
Honestly,
so the other wildcard option is I can play Izzet Phoenix. Yeah, I have played that in Modern as well, so I have a lot of choices, and I'll be playing a lot of events. I'll probably build multiple decks and play them throughout the weekend. So, but those are sort of my ideas of.
So, you doing like a pass thing for the weekend, or are you going to play the Classic on Sunday?
I want to play the Classic on Sunday, gotcha. But I don't know what I'm going to do Saturday exactly. I'm just going to get down there and get into the business.
One deck I think that you would like, but I know that we both have no cards for this deck. I don't think, but is the Grixis decks that are popping up, but like they're all based on like 4 Jace Vryn's Prodigy and 4 Nicol Bolas Ravager, so
nope.
But they're sweet.
So Jace Vryn's Prodigy is just like one of those cards where I'm like, just figure out a way to reprint it, because like that's like one of the cards that is currently exists in like the Pioneer format that I just don't have access to. Like I have access to it. I can borrow him from Dave.
Dave has, yeah.
But
you know what, Jace Vryn's Prodigy will always be very happy for me because I got all of my Jace Vryn's Prodigy for less than $10, and then I rode that card to Estates and to the Pro Tour, and then I sold them to go to Spain. And you know what? Worth it. Thank you, Jace Vryn's Prodigy. I'm going to be playing Bant Snowblade this weekend with the full 4 Oko. Mm-hmm. I think that I really like the deck. I think that Stoneforge Mystic with Batterskull and swords, but gives you a clock against everyone. And obviously the deck gets to play turn 2 Oko, which we've already seen is probably one of the best things the format can do. The Urza deck might just be better at this point now that it's a snow Urza deck, but
just like an Urza control deck,
the one thing you do get in that matchup is that I'm going to have 3 main deck copies of Teferi, and I might put the 4th little Teferi in the board. Like, little Teferi does a lot since those decks are all now main decking like Cryptic Commands and things like that. And you can stick one of those and really make them play a pretty fair game. Which is interesting. I just like the way the deck plays. It does a lot of cool things. I was doing some testing with a local player who he actually Christian Keffer we talked about before.
Mm-hmm.
He top 16'd Magic Fist Columbus actually, but he's been playing his
Naya Landfall,
Naya Landfall, like Zubru, and I got like in a test game against him. I got like Oko on board, and I literally got to like have my Batterskull equipped to something, and then like exchange control of my Batterskull with his Bloodbraid Elf to attack him for lethal. Like, it's like, oh, because this is still equipped here, and I have now this, and there you go.
Nice.
So like that was, it's one of those things where like Oko just lets you do a lot of broken things. If we don't, so playing with former host Dave Nolan and another friend of ours, Elliot, who's been on the podcast, and if we do not date 2, then I will probably run back Blue Red Dragons in the Classic because the deck has been a blast. So Pioneer, I should say. Pioneer. I am buying all the cards and finishing up putting together the Blue White Monument deck I've been working on. I think the deck is really fun. So, but they won't be all here yet. So, all right, last one. Morgan, tell the Columbus Open the SCG Columbus Open attendees where they should eat this weekend.
All right, so you should all feel very blessed because the convention center is right across the street from North Market. So North Market has a bunch of different places you can go eat. For breakfast, go to the donut place though. Donut place is top notch. And then lunch, there is a pizza place in there called Serafino. Serafino's is great, but there's also a Mikey's Late Night Slice that you can go to. For dinner, right across the convention center, there is Barley's, and we have been patrons of Barley's many, many times, but they do get pretty busy. And sometimes the service isn't the best, but the food is good and the beer is great.
And there's a barcade up there now, too.
There's a barcade up there right now. As far as other dinner places, I'm not the best for that. We typically we go out of downtown to kind of eat, but yeah, those would be my if you are not from a place that has this locally and you have a way to get to it, go to Swenson's.
That was my answer. Why are you taking my answer? You already answered.
Because that could be your dinner spot. Not everyone has a way to get there or may have one locally if you're traveling from the Northeast Ohio area, but go to Swenson's. It's magnificent. Sorry, Mike. Sorry.
I will say, I will second North Market. If you've not been here before, North Market's great. I will say the Polish place that has pierogies and like a lot of great food is also wonderful in there. There's also a Jenny's ice cream in there, which so if you need to drown your sorrows, there's where it is. As far as across the street, yes, Barley's is great, but I also say that Bear Burger is pretty good.
Oh yeah,
so I
forgot that's over there now.
Yeah, Bear Burger is pretty great, and yeah, I will second Swenson's. As a person from Northeast Ohio, I'm the one who introduced Morgan to Swenson's. Swenson's has followed me down to Central Ohio. There's many. I think the closest to the convention center.
The closest to the convention center is probably the one in Hilliard.
Okay, that's probably true. Yeah, it's a little bit of a drive.
It's worth it though.
It's very worth it. It is. It really is. So, but awesome. So, we look forward to being good hosts, I guess, this weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be sweet. So obviously, it's going to be hosted in the convention center by Star City Games. It's going to be a Team Modern Open, and it's not unified. So there's a whole lot of Oko going on. That's all you really need to know.
I think I'm the only one playing Oko on my team, which is probably not a good idea. But they're all playing Death Shadows, which seem to become elks really easily. But
yes, they do indeed. But sometimes you got to play what you know.
Yeah.
And I know that both Dave and Elliot
play what I know.
Both Dave and Elliot know the Death Shadow deck pretty well. So if that's what they want to do, that's what they're going to do. And yeah, but that's going to be everything for us this week. If you want to reach out to us, you can. We have Twitter. It's Your End Step. And when you add us, it's @YourEndStep. We also have Facebook. It's facebook.com/@YourEndStep. And then email atyourendstep@gmail.com. If you're listening to us via a app that lets you rate your podcast, feel free to leave us a rating or review. We do appreciate it. And if you're listening to us via Legit MTG, thank you so much for picking up the show. Check out some of the other articles they have in there in their online store. Thank you again to Comic Town for being our local sponsor. You can check them out at worldofcomictown.com. And again, if you are going to be in town for the Open, you can definitely go there, check out some of the singles they have, and play against Team BCW starting at 8 p.m. And that's going to be Friday at 8 p.m., of course. And then last but not least, again, we do have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/atyourendstep. And we will be fielding questions from our patrons. So get in on that so you can send us all the burning questions you have for Mike and I. That's going to be everything for us this week. You have a great one. Bye.